Then there's like different theories of personality. And like the one I tend to ascribe to the most and I use is that people are born with certain traits, and that's, you see those in like DISC, Myers-Briggs, like people have latched on this idea, and, certain tools will help you understand who's going to have initiative and who wants to be a great team player, who wants rules and constraints, and who wants to live in a creative space, by the way.
Do you use that in like your hiring and like management process? Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. So, I basically, like, when I go to hire people, I'm looking at kind of a Venn diagram of 3 different things. So one is just like how you're wired, and there's no right or wrong wiring. Just the idea that I use is that, different roles require different natural personality traits. Like, you've met that person who's just born to be an accountant, right? By the way, worst accountant ever. I'm pointing at myself. I hate rules. I got a terrible memory, and I get bored with repetitive stuff. Like, that's just the worst job for me possible. So like, you can have these personality traits that are innate and kind of define what you're meant to do. Right. And you see that like on Twitter, for example, you'll see the operators really acting very differently than the allocators. Like, it's a very clear segregation to me. Also, for me, I'm mostly on the operator side. So the allocators get bored by me talking about hiring processes and stuff. But so there's that bucket. Then there's like the values stuff, including like your level of grit. So I want to check on that. And I spend a lot of time there. And then the third bucket is like, what is your just raw level of intelligence? And that's just, general mental ability. Like, how well can you quickly process information and not have to have me explain it to you 5 different times? Because I'm really bad at that also. So like, I want people to gel with me, and I get bored if I have to explain. Yeah, I have to explain 3
How
to 5 times.
How do you assess grit?
Grit is best done through a combination of 2 things, in my opinion. So one is in your hiring process, and before that, in the track record of people. So track record is the best predictor of future kind of performance. So if you can show me how you've demonstrated grit in the past, I can be pretty highly believing that you're going to have grit in the future. So for example, like, I just did another round of associates to come work with me. And like, I interviewed one guy, and he was like super smart, like seemed like somebody I want to work with, great personality type, great skill set. But then when I kind of looked at what he did, like, there wasn't a lot of like get her done, like, seeing and going through adversity, and then how you react to that. Like, that's the best demonstration of grit. And like the people that have grit, like, you can see them doing it year after year, all the way back to probably high school. Right. Like if you ask me to demonstrate grit for you, like, I can tell you stories from high school of how I demonstrated grit, and then like that's continued on. So that's the best way to do it. And that's why, I really spend very little time in interviews hearing from people what they tell me they were going to do. I'm more interested in what they did in the past, and then now how they think about it, because that's unarguable. Whereas like, we all know those people that can come in and totally bullshit you with like, oh yeah, here's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this, and they never do it. I'm very uninterested in all that kind of stuff. But that grit is your track record, number 1. Number 2, your process can help kind of bring out grit. Like, how do you react to it? And that's just like a very minor thing. But like, if you're not willing to do any work to like dig into my job, or like learn about what's going on, or learn about me, like, you may not have the grit for this role. Like, that's like 10% of it, 90% is what you've done before. Okay. If you're interested, I have a whole video on this that I recorded.
We should put it in the show notes.
So it's all, you can go to gridley.com hiring. It's all on my website. So part of my strategy of not to charge for anything, which may be a huge mistake.